Hello again, you beautiful, soulful people. I see I timed this perfectly to get that beautiful cat behind me there. Hey, Audrey. How you doing, girl? Yeah, she's like, oh, I don't want nothing to do with these videos you keep making. 10 movies, 5. What in the world is that? It's all in the title, babe. 10 movies, 5 more movies, talking about more bloody movies. Holy Toledo, I swear it's endless, ain't it? Alright, first one I'll talk about here. I just got these popped up on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm getting lazier and lazier the more I make these type of videos. Just lazier and lazier and lazier. It's like I need somebody to do the damn work for me. But anyhow, these are movies that I watched I wanted to talk with you guys about. First one, will go from the most recent that I watched to whatever. Geez, I'm such a professional guy in dealing with these type of videos. First movie to talk about, 1977, The Spy Who Loved Me. This is, of course, a Roger Moore, James Bond movie. One of the better ones, probably my favorite of the Roger Moore era Bond movies. I think this is just a solid action movie. It's almost more of a comedy movie, I found, like especially with some of his one-liners and sexual innuendos throughout. It's so cringeworthy that you can't help but laugh. I don't really like Roger Moore all that much as Bond, but I'll give him credit where it's due. He's a charming, suave guy. I like him in this movie a lot. I don't remember any of the other Roger Moore Bond movies really doing much for me, but this one always stood out to me, mainly because of Jaws. I really like Jaws as the henchman here. I think he's probably my favorite out of the Bond henchmen. I just think he's got such a cool presence, and every time he's on screen, he's more commanding. He's got a more commanding presence than the main villain in this, like some old bald guy named Stromberg. It's just like whatever, and he goes out like a chump too. So it's just like whatever, man. I took a look at some of the critics' reviews here, and they say like it's pretty 50-50, I guess, in regards to the top critics. Like the first one says here, gets off to a promising start but proves seriously deficient in staying power. I don't know, I kind of disagree with that. I won't lie though, I had to pause this movie a bunch of times because I was either making dinner or last night I started watching it and I went to bed after about an hour's worth of the movie. I watched it today, about a half hour, and it's a 2 hour long movie. I probably could have watched it in one sitting, but, I was just extremely tired yesterday. And I wanted to watch this movie again for a while. I know I had seen it before. I just remembered, like, the basic things about it, the skiing opening and the awesome stunt off the mountain, as well as Jaws and the sort of fortress and the ocean. So you got some cool visuals here and some, I don't know, some good Bond quips, I guess. Still, this isn't one of my all-time favorite Bond movies. It's definitely, from what I recall, my favorite of the Roger Moore ones, though. So, yeah, just a solid spy action movie. It's not a classic. Like I was really hoping this was going to just blow me out of the water and be like a sort of a License to Kill type scenario, where I wasn't expecting much when I watched License to Kill a few years ago, but when I rewatched it, I was just like blown away by how much the movie bettered over time. I personally, that's my favorite James Bond movie, License to Kill with Timothy Dalton. I think that's just the stunts, and it for as serious as it is, it does take itself. It doesn't take itself too seriously, that one. Like it has at the end, like the truck goes on the back end and somehow like just it's weird to describe, but I've always liked the Bond movies, but License to Kill, Casino Royale, From Russia with Love, those are the top tier Bond movies as far as I'm concerned. So anyhow, moving on from Bond now, which movie did I watch second most recently? Which one on here? This computer, it's so slow. It's killing me, guys. It's killing me. It's killing me. It like does this thing where it's like, oh no, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading, but oh man. Gosh, I hate it. I hate it. I really, really need a new computer. Maybe I should do one of those bullshit Kickstarter campaigns where I'm just like, give me $1,000 for doing nothing, for sitting at home and whining about how I need a new computer and stuff like that. Give me what I want. Give me. Alright, so the next movie I'll talk about here now that it's finally somewhat done loading. I mean, God knows this will probably take 5 hours to open up this page for. But this next movie really genuinely shocked me. This is the newest movie I've watched. It's an animated movie, 2020's Mortal Kombat Legends: Scorpion's Revenge. I won't lie, initially I was not at all interested in seeing this. I thought with a title like Mortal Kombat Legends: Scorpion's Revenge, that sounds like the most generic garbage you can imagine. I walked into this movie thinking that it was going to be one thing, walked away from it completely loving this movie. You guys, this is without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, this is my favorite video game adaptation ever. Like this blew me away. This is as Mortal Kombat as you can get. This is basically, it kind of follows the storyline of that first live-action Mortal Kombat movie from, I think, 95 or whenever. But obviously the main character here, it's in the title, it's Scorpion, and it starts off with a really intense, riveting scene. And in spite of the fact that it is a bit cliche to a certain extent, I watched this review from these guys I like called Double Toasted. They did a review and they gave it like middling scores. I think they both gave it between like a rental and a matinee, which is like either 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5, one or the other. But they seem to be middle of the road on it, and by God, I loved it. I mean, maybe I'm biased in the sense that I am a Mortal Kombat fan. I grew up with those games. Like on the Super Nintendo, I loved playing Mortal Kombat. And what can I say? I've always wanted to see a great live-action adaptation of Mortal Kombat. I mean, it seems pretty easy on paper. You just take the premise of something like Enter the Dragon and you make it R-rated. You make Enter the Dragon a bit more violent. And this movie, the violence in it, my God, when it needs to be, it's terrifying, it's haunting. Whenever you get an innocent character that dies, or sometimes even a bad character, you see the gory aftermath of their fatalities, and it's so visceral, and it gets you going like, yeah, and oh no. Like literally that's the sign of a great action movie in my opinion. Like whenever I'm sitting here watching something, I don't want to just sit here and be like staring blankly at the screen, just like droning on and on and on, endless cuts and generic garbage thrown around. Like, I want to be on the edge of my seat and go, whoa, that was cool, yeah, get him, whoever, get him, Scorpion. And this movie delivered for me. I liked all the characters throughout this, from Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage is played by somebody, I forget who, but I'll have to quickly peek at the cast list here. Johnny Cage is Joel McHale, if I recall here. They don't show the names on Rotten Tomatoes here. Whoever does the voice for Scorpion, though, fantastic job. I mean, everybody does a fantastic job in this. This is only an 80-minute long movie, so it's literally in and out. But surprisingly to me, in the best of possible ways, this movie felt like it was longer. Like, this movie didn't feel like it needed more time to bake. Like it didn't, it just developed these characters enough to which you care about these characters. Meanwhile, at the same time, leaving enough space for there to be these incredibly violent action sequences that just completely blew me away. By the end of this film, I was almost numb to all the violence going on, but in the best possible way. Like, this is definitely not for kids. I would say that with 100% certainty. This will probably horrify the hell out of kids, just the opening scene alone and what happens at the end of it. I mean, I could see what was coming a mile away throughout certain things, but I'm fine with that in certain cases. Like, I don't know what the hell you would expect from a movie like an adaptation of a video game like Mortal Kombat. I mean, it doesn't make sense to go like, oh, I'm expecting something with a bit more je ne sais quoi or whatever. It's like, give me a break. Come on. This is a fantastic action movie, and that's what it strives to be, and it does a magnificent job of it, in my opinion. I love the characters. The comedy here works, especially with Johnny Cage character. And I found it gripping from start to finish. I didn't know what it was going to do. By the end of it, I guess you could say it's your typical cliche narrative, Enter the Dragon style, where the heroes maybe come out on top in spite of astronomical odds against them. But still, throughout the course of this film, I was invested, and I just had such a fun time. I cannot deny the fun I had with this film. I don't know if maybe if I rewatch it, it won't hold up, but I don't know. For now, in this moment, I genuinely loved this movie, and I genuinely think that it's the best video game adaptation in regards to film that I've ever seen. It's really magnificent what the animators here did, and yeah, I can't sing the praises of this movie enough. Go watch Mortal Kombat Legends: Scorpion's Revenge if you're a fan of the series, especially, or if you're just a fan of violent animated action in general. You'll probably get a kick out of this one. All right, what's the next film I watched here? I think it was this Schwarzenegger one, wasn't it? So I watched this one. Yeah, we'll talk about this one next. I watched this one because recently I've been watching a lot of old Siskel and Ebert reviews. Like they have their reviews, like the full half-hour long episodes. As you can hear, there's jet planes flying over here in good old Canada here, keeping us safe up there in the skies above. But this movie, so we're talking about Stay Hungry from 1976. Jeff Bridges, Sally Field, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stay Hungry. This film came recommended to me by either Siskel or Ebert. It came in their recommended videos portion of one of their shows where I think they were reviewing either another Danny DeVito movie or something else, which I'll be talking about after this, actually, because I watched both of their recommendations in a row. So the first one, or the more recent one that I watched, Stay Hungry, this was an interesting movie. I mean, I don't know if I fully loved it. I mean, there's something about Sally Field. So she's obviously incredibly young in this, but like it's just weird. I've always seen her as an older lady. So when you're watching a movie like this from 76 where she's supposed to be this like attractive like female love interest, and I'm just like I'm sorry, but I don't see the appeal. I mean, in my opinion, she kind of reminds me of Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones, where like you know, even though she's like in her 20s or whatever now, it's like she still looks like she has like an older face in a like little kid's body, and in this, Sally Field gets naked in a bunch of scenes, and it's just like I'm like, oh god. It feels it felt weird. Like I don't find her to be attractive. I guess some people do, because some of the reviews on here, I was just like the user reviews. I forget if it was here or IMDb. I was just laughing my ass off because that seemed to be the whole reason why people watched this to begin with. Meanwhile, I'm watching it because it was recommended by either Siskel or Ebert, and I wanted to watch it because Arnold Schwarzenegger is in it, and you know what? He's damn good. I would say that this might just be his best performance ever, other than the Terminator. I think he's surprisingly really natural in this movie. Like it's not too much of a stretch for him, but compared to something as abysmal as Hercules in New York, which was just... I tried to watch that, you guys, and Hercules in New York is quite honestly one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's hilarious for the first, 10 or 15 minutes, where you're just completely baffled by the delivery of lines from Schwarzenegger, as long as you're not watching the dubbed version, which dubs over Schwarzenegger's voice. That version is probably just way worse. Because the whole reason why you want to watch a Schwarzenegger movie is to hear his iconic voice. Him trying to speak dialogue in Hercules in New York, when you're watching it for the first 10 minutes or so, it's mind-boggling how awful it is. And I was like, okay, if the rest of the movie can keep up this momentum, I'm sold. But the movie didn't. That movie sucks, and I can't even believe I'm talking about it. Stay Hungry. This is a much better movie. It's got sort of middling reviews here on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got 67 critics score out of 15 reviews, and 40% out of over 2,500 reviews on here from the audiences. So I don't know. Maybe I seem to be in the minority on this, but I'd give this a fairly high review. I don't think this is a classic movie. I don't think this is a movie I'd want to rewatch again anytime soon. It had an ending that really kind of shocked me, involving one of the characters named Thor. I mean, that's the other compelling thing I found about this. Jeff Bridges constantly, I think 2 or 3 times he's talking to Schwarzenegger's character in this film, and he keeps bringing up Batman this, Batman that, and it's and then there's a character named Thor, so it's almost because Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze and Batman and Robin, and Jeff Bridges is Obadiah Stane or Ironmonger and Iron Man. So it's cool that they're dropping all these comic references. It's that just blew my mind. I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. It's almost like they could see the future. I don't know, but there's this there's something that happens near the end of this film that almost derailed the movie in general, but at the same time, it was so out of left field that I was compelled by it. And it involves this Thor character, this gym owner who's wearing this obvious toupee throughout the course of the movie. He's on some sort of drug, either it's cocaine or something, but he just has this destructive, chaotic break at the end of the movie that completely left me confused. Where the hell did this come from? I thought this was supposed to be a comedy or romance or something, but it ends up being I don't know. It's a weird movie. It's a weird movie. Again, I don't know if I'd like it as much if I watched it again on a second viewing, but for what it was, I really enjoyed it. And it's got Robert Englund in it as well. And he's got a pretty substantial role too. He's got a couple fight scenes in there as well. I guess my biggest disappointment with this is that we sort of get this pseudo fight scene at the end of the movie during the climax, but and it's implied that Schwarzenegger's character gets involved in it as well, because they sort of have this dialogue at the end, oh, shame about that guy and what happened to him. But we don't see Schwarzenegger get involved in this fight at the end. So it's oh, that's a missed opportunity. That was probably my biggest disappointment about this film. Other than that, I liked it. I really, really liked every scene involving Jeff Bridges and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I thought those scenes were really, well done, and they had this awesome chemistry because at first you sort of look at Schwarzenegger and you go, oh, okay, he's going to be this jealous jock type boyfriend who's just going to be belligerent and an asshole throughout the course of the movie. But he's kind of the most likable, level-headed character throughout this movie. Like, I don't know, there's just something about him that I kind of wish in a way that he was the main character to this, but I understand why he wasn't, and I think he does well here in the supporting role, and I do think it might actually be his best performance. Not his best movie, but his best performance, and it's kind of cool seeing him in this, like it's labeled here as a comedy drama, but I think it fits more into the dramatic aspect of that, more so than a comedy. The comedy more so comes from the character and the dialogue they exchange. But anyhow, this is a fine movie, and you know, if you're curious, I'd say give it a shot because you know, it's. And one of the reviews I wanted to bring up down here from one of these audiences. Okay, so it says it's a 3 out of 5 review. I'd probably give it like 4 out of 5, but this guy says, originally wanted to see this movie just to see Sally Field naked, but I like most Jeff Bridges and Schwarzenegger movies too. I thought it was alright, kept me interested, blah blah blah. So yeah, apparently a lot of people just wanted to see this because Sally Field gets naked in it, and yet it was awkward to me to see her naked because, like, you look like a kid to me. You look like an old lady's face on a kid's body, and it's really, really off-putting in my opinion. Moving on from this subject now, because wowie zowie. I'm gonna get all the crazies coming after me now. How dare you body shame a great actress like Sally Field? Screw you, you sexist pig. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm just speaking my mind. I'm sorry. Like, you know, there was this other love interest in the movie that I found supremely more attractive than Sally Field. I'm sorry, but whatever. To each their own, I guess. Next movie is Wise Guys. This is a Brian De Palma movie with Danny DeVito, Joe Piscopo, Harvey Keitel. This was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with this. This was, again, in the same recommendation thing that Siskel and Ebert did. So one of them recommended Stay Hungry, the other recommended Wise Guys. And I think I really enjoyed this film a bit more than Stay Hungry. This is a straight-up comedy about, you know, these two morons in the mob life. Danny DeVito is like addicted to gambling, and he basically screws over himself and his friend as well by choosing, instead of putting the 50 grand or whatever that he gets to bet on this horse for his mob boss, instead he goes with a different horse, you know, expecting, you know, the mob boss's horse to lose, but obviously, you know, we all know how that turns out. So it ends up getting these two in a heap of trouble. They're getting chased by hitmen, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to give too much away about this movie, but I think I remember seeing this movie as a kid. I distinctly remembered the ending. It was on cable. Clicked the channel. I think there was another movie coming on afterwards that I was more interested in, so I'm like, whatever, I'll finish the end of this movie. And when I clicked on it, it involved this character doing something that that kind of shocked me as a kid. The image always stuck in my head, and you know, there's another image I remembered as a kid about like this big explosion that happens near the end of the movie. So I remembered that distinctly. I just remembered this, like, these pieces of this movie. So when they happened, I was like, oh, I had seen this movie before. It was almost like a Jimmy Hollywood type situation where I saw the ending to that movie because I distinctly remembered the setting of that theater that the ending of that movie takes place in, and I distinctly remembered like the stairway sequence involving the Joe Piscopo character as well as the whole explosion that happens. But I didn't remember anything before or in the middle or, whatever after that. But I was very happy that I gave this movie a watch. I mean, of course, Danny DeVito, he's just the standout here in general. I mean, Danny DeVito's awesome here. Him and Joe Piscopo have great chemistry together. You really get the sense that these guys have been friends for a while. Like, I don't know if the actors are friends in real life or not, but they have sharp chemistry. I like their dialogue back and forth. This basically gave me an idea of how much more I would have liked that My Blue Heaven movie with Steve Martin and Rick Moranis. How I would have liked that movie just a tad or two more had it been R-rated, because this is an R-rated mob movie as well. That one was PG-13. That one pulled its punches, whereas this one has a few more punches it can pull, which I feel like when you're making a mob movie, what the hell are you doing if you're making a PG-13 mob movie? That doesn't make sense in my opinion. Not at all. But anyhow, this movie, I had my problems with it. I mean, like what they are, I can't exactly remember. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, I don't know what my problem really was with this movie. Like, so maybe I do like it a bit more in hindsight now that I can't even think about what my problem with it was. You ever get that sense where it's just like, you want to love something fully, but there's something about it that's just like, I love this movie, but there's something that's keeping me from completely loving it. And this is one of those type of movies. I'd love to see this again sometime. Unlike Stay Hungry, where that movie's more so just like you've seen it once, whatever. It's just like goes through your mind and is out again. But you have a good time while watching it, and you take away a few good things like the performances of Schwarzenegger and Bridges, and even Robert Englund as well. But in this, I mean, every cast member is a standout here, and the characters are, even though they're kind of cliche, they're likable and they're well defined, and there's some laugh out loud scenes involving credit cards and big fat guys just munching down on lobster. Just that scene had me laughing. That's a scene I won't get out of my head for a while. It reminded me of that scene from Venom where Tom Hardy's just in the tank and there's just eating the live lobsters and whatnot in a way. But anyhow, Wise Guys, yeah, in spite of my the fact that I don't fully love it, I definitely appreciated this movie. I definitely very much enjoyed it, and I'd recommend it to everybody, especially Danny DeVito fans. Okay, so next film here, Living in Oblivion. When's this in? 1995, Living in Oblivion. This is a Steve Buscemi movie, directed and written by Tom DeCillo? Yeah, DeCillo, I think. And it's got James LeGros, Catherine Keener, Dermot Mulroney, Peter Dinklage in this cameo role, and Peter Dinklage, I'll say it right now. This is one of the best. This is one of the best bit parts I've ever seen in a movie. Like Peter Dinklage stole the movie for me. He has this monologue about dream sequences involving short people that just had me in stitches, because I swear it was an attack on David Lynch's Twin Peaks and other movies alike, but Twin Peaks was around the 90s, and that had sequences involving a dwarf in the sort of dream sequence involving Cooper and Laura Palmer. I forgot her name for a second there. But anyhow, this movie, Living in Oblivion, I give it my highest recommendation. I'm surprised it took me this long to watch this damn movie. I absolutely, thoroughly, 100% loved it. This is a movie where when it ends, you almost don't want it to. You want more time with these characters. You want to spend more time in the world that they inhabit, just because you like them so much. There's one character in here, though, named Wanda that I really I really didn't like her, but I was very attracted to her. So, but I understood her motivation. It's just like you know that it's just the way the movie. I don't know. I don't know. If I had one problem with the movie, I guess it's that. But still, like I love this movie thoroughly, and I love the fact that you know, it doesn't try to have the fairy tale happy ending like I was expecting. I was expecting these characters to make up at the end, but instead it's just like, no. You know, they just move on, and, you know, whatever happens, happens. It's just like, move on from there. And you really feel bad for this character called Wolf in this movie. That's kind of why I hated this Wanda character by the end. But I was fascinated by their relationship. It's a great example of being friend zoned when it comes to filmmaking, like or on film in general or whatever. So yeah, I don't got too much to say about this movie. I just thought the filmmaking behind it was ingenious. I love the almost fly on the wall style of cinematography they use, and I'm a sucker for movies like this. Ed Wood came around the same time as this, and I do like Ed Wood a bit more with Tim Burton Johnny Depp movie. I like that one a bit more than this, but this one it's vulgar. It's you know, it's got a bit of nudity in it. It's kind of sexy, and yeah, I don't know what to say. I found this movie extremely funny. I really liked every cast member here, and I thought the writing was top notch. The acting performances top notch. This is Steve Buscemi's best performance ever, in my opinion, ever. He is incredible here, absolutely incredible. And Peter Dinklage stole the show for me. I was literally laughing almost to tears at one point during his monologue. I'm just like, just such a great performance, such a great movie. I highly recommend this movie to everybody. All right, number God knows what. Let's talk about a more hard-edged film while I sip on this good old thing here. It's only 12:30, but I don't care. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Oh, The Long Good Friday. This is a 1982 movie. Directed by John Mackenzie, written by Barry Keefe. Starring Bob Hoskins, Helen Mirren. And, what did I think about this movie? Well, I really, 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 really enjoyed this movie. I didn't quite love this movie as much as I thought I would. I thought I would love this as much as I did something like Get Carter with Michael Caine. And I thought it was going to be that type of movie. I thought it was going to be kind of an action movie in a sense, like not too much of an action movie. I thought there was going to be like shootouts, but there weren't really any. It was more so a drama, mystery, suspense movie, like it says here on Rotten Tomatoes. I guess my main problem with this film is sort of in the ending. I don't really like where it ends. But at the same time, I kind of do like where it ends, so it's kind of that like yin-yang sort of thing. I think this might be a movie where if I ever get the chance to rewatch it again, I'd probably like it a bit more than I do at this point now, because I'd probably be paying more attention to the character names and you know, all the betrayal going on, because there's it's pretty simple once you understand, just like our main character, the Bob Hoskins character here, he's phenomenal in this film along with Helen Mirren. They're both terrific, top-notch in this movie. And it's written very well, directed very well. I was constantly intrigued by the mystery. It had me going one way and the other. I'm like, okay, who's the one responsible for this. I kind of knew from the get-go who it was, but it kept trying, like it kept making me want it not to be that way because it felt so obvious from the get-go that I'm like, I hope it's not that, but I'd understand, like, because obviously the foreshadowing is there. So why the hell else would they make it somebody completely random? That wouldn't make sense. That would be a disappointment. So I think it's that would make this movie very compelling, especially on a second viewing. For now, though, I thought this was a fantastic gangster movie. Bob Hoskins, Helen Mirren here are just phenomenal. This is mainly driven by a great script, great performances, great direction. Everything's firing on all cylinders here. Any nitpicks I have, they're absolutely minor and irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. I still think this is a movie that is absolutely worth checking out if you're a fan of gangster cinema. Bob Hoskins alone here is just, he's phenomenal. He reminded me, like, it feels as if somebody like James Gandolfini must have been inspired by a performance like this in playing Tony Soprano, because Bob Hoskins, he's so likable in this, and yet you can tell, like, he's got that fire in him, like, and you see it in certain scenes. Thankfully, I was worried that they weren't going to show his rage, but it just gets to a point where it's too much, and like he explodes, and it's perfect. It's perfectly well done. It's shocking. It hits you, and like when you see the expression on his face, and like he's coming out all splattered with blood, it's just like, wow, this guy is completely different than how we've seen him throughout the course of the rest of the movie. And there's this awesome scene between him and Helen Mirren where he breaks down, and like you think he's about to beat her, but then he just apologizes to her, and it's this nice, beautiful moment that at first has you worried that you're going to start hating this character now, but instead it's just like, this guy's vulnerable. This guy's getting punched from every direction here, and he's not a good guy. Like he's in the mob. Like he's a bad guy. He's profiting off of a lot of people's misfortune, but you still find a way, and the filmmakers find a way, and the performers find a way of making him likable. You root for this guy. You want him to figure out who the hell's fucking with him. You want him to just cave that bastard's face in, literally. And you can't wait to get to that moment throughout the course of this movie. And if it happens, or when it happens, I won't spoil here, but I was very satisfied by this movie overall. The ending left a few things to be desired. I would have liked to have known the outcome of certain characters, actually basically all the characters, quite frankly. But other than the ending sort of leaving me a bit like wanting more, I guess, which is a good thing too. If a movie leaves you wanting to experience more of it, that's quite good usually. But in this case, I wanted a bit more time to soak in what was going on along with this Bob Hoskins character by the end. But other than that, I thought this was a great gangster movie. And before I forget, I definitely think the movie Sexy Beast got a lot of inspiration from this movie. In particular, the first time we see Bob Hoskins, he's in this airport, and this cool soundtrack is playing behind him while he's sort of walking, looking all badass and tough and shit. And there's this very strikingly similar scene in Sexy Beast where Ben Kingsley first shows up, and he's walking like a badass in the airport with this song playing in the background. It's just like, as soon as I saw that scene in this movie, I'm like, okay, that's where that movie got that from, was The Long Good Friday. I'd be totally shocked if the director from that movie wasn't inspired in some way by this movie. Anyhow, moving on now. What's the next film that I watched here? Okay, yeah, and then after this we're getting into some older movie territory, going all the way to the 60s after this one. So for now, let's talk about The Birdcage from 1996. This is a Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, Gene Hackman, Diane Wiest movie, and what can I say? This was a terrific movie. Terrific movie with a fantastic performance from Robin Williams and Nathan Lane. Gene Hackman's, of course, great as always. But really, it's Robin Williams' movie along with Nathan Lane. I think they are tremendous in this movie. Incredibly likable, incredibly lovable, the two of them. And what I love about the start of the movie is that, like, this is an R-rated movie, and it starts off in a way where I couldn't help but think, like, especially with the way Robin Williams plays this character. At first, he seems like he's right out of a mob movie. I swore I was watching a Martin Scorsese movie when I first caught this on TV here, like a couple of days ago. I watched this while dog sitting at my friend's place, and this came on TV. So I watched. It was censored, so it was kind of funny seeing where they censored it in some areas, like they have all these statues of naked people in their house, and the TV had to censor out like the statues, and I'm just like, you have to censor a statue? Like, it's not the real thing. Like, why are you censoring it? Whatever. I guess people are offended by statues now, I guess. I don't know. But but the opening scene of this movie with Robin Williams sort of walking around, and I if I recall, I think it's like a one camera shot of him just walking through his club and sort of dictating what everybody's doing, like, oh, making sure everything's going according to plan. And it reminded me of a Martin Scorsese film, whether it be the Goodfellas scene where Ray Liotta's walking through the club with his wife, or Casino in general, just that, basically the entirety of Casino, where it's like just about the inner workings of a casino in Vegas. I was fascinated from the opening of this movie to the very end. Like, obviously this is more of a comedic movie. It's more lovable than a Scorsese type movie usually is. But I was so happy seeing that Robin Williams, because I had never seen this movie before. I think maybe I saw like bits and pieces of it here and there, but I'd never seen this movie in full. So I was so happy I got the chance to finally watch it in full, even if it was on TV there. It was kind of annoying with all the commercials and censoring and all that crap. But anyhow, that couldn't take away from how much I enjoyed this movie. I really loved this movie a lot. Maybe my least favorite thing about it, though, is Robin Williams' kid in this movie. I found him to be extremely unlikable. Extremely unlikable. Like, I thought he was more of an antagonist in this movie than Gene Hackman's character was. Because Gene Hackman's this hardcore, right-wing, political guy, and like anti-gay, whatever. But at a certain point in the movie, especially by the end, you kind of grow to like him along with the Nathan Lane character. There's a sweet sort of thing they do with these two, the Gene Hackman and the Nathan Lane characters that I thought was so charming and so well done, and it shows that no matter what political side of the party you hang on, you can always find a friend in somebody that you maybe don't approve of their lifestyle, but hey, they're good people. And I love the fact that the writing in this movie is so great. It's written by Elaine May, and it's such a wonderful script. It gives all these characters such depth and such warmth. And again, my only problem with this film really stems from the fact that I hated Robin Williams' son, that character in this movie. I couldn't stand the guy. Like, I thought he was an asshole. I thought, like, dude, like, you're too ridiculous. I understood his motivation, but the fact that he kept being so belligerent about it and so pushy about it, and there's really no, like, comeuppance for him at the end for trying to, like, basically he's trying to censor the fact that his father's gay from Gene Hackman's character because he plans on marrying his daughter. But I just thought it was too much. It was too much with that character, and I just the more he went on about like trying to censor his family. It started to grate on my nerves, sort of. And thankfully, the Robin Williams and Nathan Lane characters, they have similar reactions as I did. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, why should they have to go through all this just for you? But at the same time, it makes them all the more lovable. The fact that they would want to go along with this scenario, like as absurd as this guy's suggestion that they try to not act gay. I mean, it's an absurd premise, but they really do a magnificent job with this. And in spite of that, literally that's my one problem with this movie. I can't think of much else that I had a problem with, except for maybe the ending. The ending, I felt like we could have used another scene or two involving Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, and Gene Hackman, and Diane Wiest as well. But she was sort of just like, okay, as the wife. I was more interested in those three characters and their relationship, and I wanted to see them interact more, especially after the reveal inevitably comes out, because of course it's going to come out that they're gay. I mean, obviously, you have a movie like this. What are they going to keep faking it throughout the wedding too? Like, are you crazy? But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie a lot, and yeah, I'd highly recommend this to everybody. I think this is definitely one of Robin Williams' finest hours on film. He is absolutely terrific here. Absolutely blown away by this movie. All right, next film, and this was kind of a disappointing one, in all honesty. This one's called The Fortune Cookie, and it's from 1966. It's a Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau movie, and I liked it. I'd give it a positive score. If I was to give it like thumbs up or thumbs down, I'd obviously lean more towards thumbs up on this one, but I don't know. This movie, it's too long. It's chopped up in these chapters. Like they keep needlessly having these title cards pop in and out. It's like chapter 1 or part 1, so and so, part 2, the fortune cookie, part 3, this, part 2, like, and it just got so old so fast, and it made the movie seem longer. Like, I'd love to see a cut of this movie where they just cut that out, like, because it's just like there's no need for those damn title cards. They're redundant, and they make the movie needlessly longer than it has to be. And Walter Matthau, what can I say? He steals the show, in my opinion. Jack Lemmon's fine, but I got kind of annoyed with his character after a while. I just thought he was a wimp throughout the course of the majority of the movie. He kept making these harebrained, stupid decisions, and I'm just like, can you just listen to your brother-in-law, please? Like, just go with it. Just go with it. And thankfully he does. So he's not, like, irritatingly annoying. He's just, like, borderline like annoying, but it's all right because, like, it's going for comedy purposes, so it makes sense, I guess. And however, if it's one thing about this movie, and this is the type of movie that, I guarantee you some people, even in the genre selection here on Rotten Tomatoes, it labels this as a classic, and quite frankly, I don't think this is a classic film at all. I think it's a okay movie, a good movie even, but I think this is one of those movies that if they wanted to remake something like this, go for it, because you could probably really do something with it, because it so basically, I'll just read the short synopsis that they have here. An insurance salesman concocts a scheme to cash in on his brother-in-law's injury. And, that's basically the whole premise of the movie right there in a nutshell. But the thing that it leaves out is how Jack Lemmon's character gets injured. And that's through this Ron Rich character, who's Luther Boom Boom Jackson, football player, wide receiver. He basically catches a football during the opening of this movie, slams into Jack Lemmon's character. He knocks down over this like comically big log that's like standing behind him while he's filming, and basically Walter Matthau comes in and he's like, okay, we're going to milk this for all it's worth. We're suing CBS and NFL and whoever the hell else we can sue for your fake injury. And like basically he says your 2 or 3 fingers up here are numb, and your leg, you can't walk on it because that's numb too, and you got an old spine injury from when you were a kid, and we're going to say you got that through the fall, and you're going to go along with it. The best part of this movie, and really what should have been the heart of this movie, in my opinion, is the relationship between Jack Lemmon and Ron Rich's character. Because I really, really liked it whenever those two were on screen. And quite frankly, whenever they were, I was like, I kept thinking, okay, I could see this movie going in a different direction, where instead of like the two main characters being Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, in a different world, I could see the two main characters being Jack Lemmon and Ron Rich, like as Boom Boom Jackson here, because that was the heart of this movie. And in my opinion, Ron Rich, who's a great actor by the way, I loved him in this movie. I swear I've seen him in other things, but this movie really shines here. My God, I just wanted to see more of these two on screen together, and it kind of disappointed me in a certain sense, the fact that there's not enough between those two, and the ending sort of just like fades out, and it's just like, okay, whatever, like I guess they forgive each other, whatever. I mean, it seems too sudden, and it feels kind of unearned, especially after all the bullshit that Jack Lemmon puts the Ron Rich character through in this movie. Like it feels like it's trying to get you to go like, oh, Jack Lemmon finally did the right thing and like doing whatever. But I wasn't buying it. I'm just like, that's not enough, man. Like, I mean, like I wanted to see more, I guess. I wanted it to go on further after that ending, and it just stopped. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like this movie was kind of a disappointment, in all honesty. I really wanted to love this movie, especially after watching movies like The Odd Couple and Taking a Pelham 1-2-3 with Walter Matthau. And they're such fantastic actors, especially when they're on screen together. Like The Odd Couple, they're not on screen together in the Taking a Pelham 1-2-3. That's a Walter Matthau movie. But I just genuinely love these actors. So when I watched this, I was just like, I was so bored. I think I had to pause it like every like 15 minutes to a half hour just to go outside for a smoke and do something. Because it's just like, this movie's killing me, man. This movie's killing me. It's just, it's especially with those title cards and just boring, just overlong runtime, overwrought. And I really wanted more out of this movie. And again, this is one of those movies, one of those classic movies, as they call, that I could easily see them remaking this one day, and easily I think it would be a better movie than what we got here. As long as they don't as long as they don't make it the same basic story where it's about these two these two guys and they keep like the football character at the sideline. I think the important thing is, if they were to ever reboot this sort of story, they need to make that football character the main character, basically. Like, he has to be the co-main character along with whoever he injures, and the scheming sort of lawyer brother-in-law has to be like the supporting guy who's always in the background going, no, you gotta do this, you're screwing up my plan, I mean our plan. Because it's fun, but at the same time it's just like, it's like there's a lot of screen time dedicated to Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon on screen together, and that's great. They have great chemistry. They're awesome on screen together. I love it whenever they're on screen together. But I kept wanting to see more of Ron Rich on screen with either just Jack Lemmon or these three on screen in general. Instead, they introduced this wife character, played by Judy West, and she's gorgeous. I gotta say, she's a gorgeous lady in this movie. But I just didn't care. I'm like, whatever, man. Like, why do you have to have her in this movie? I would have rather had more of the Ron Rich character and more of the guilt start to seep into the Jack Lemmon character. The fact that he's leading this guy down this dark, depressing path, like with all this guilt, the fact that he thinks he injured Jack Lemmon, only for Jack Lemmon to be the fake that he is. You know, it's kind of sad, and it makes you like go like, man, all the shit that you're putting this guy through is just, it's too much, and it sort of turns this movie into like not a comedy at a certain point, at least in my opinion. Like the laughs just sort of started to flatline. They started to right from the beginning, like especially when Jack Lemmon gets injured. He sort of does this comedic roll over the log, and then he sort of stands up and goes, "Oh!" and then falls back, does the stupid comedic thing. And it's just like, I wish they kind of played that more seriously, the whole injury thing. Like, because the fact that he rolls his eyes in this comedic fashion, it rings hollow, you know? And I guess that's the purpose of it, because he's faking the injury, but at the same time, it's just like, you could have made that more impactful, especially since we're sort of, at this point in the movie, viewing it from the Ron Rich character. Like, he keeps looking over. Like, he can't pay attention to the place on the field, because, like, he's just watching this guy, like, not responding to the people that are putting flashlights in his eye and stuff like that. And yeah, just a fascinating character, a fascinating performance, a fascinating actor, just wasted, in my opinion. They could have done a lot more with this character and this actor, in my opinion, in this film. Either way, it was an okay movie. I mean, I guarantee you older folks would probably like this a ton more than I did, I guess, but to each their own, I guess. Anyhow, next movie, I guess we're at number 9 at this point. Paper Moon, 1973. I guess this won the little actress known as Tatum O'Neal. I guess this won her an Oscar for her debut as the child in this movie. She plays Addie. And, yeah. What can I say about this film? It's directed perfectly by Peter Bogdanovich. Peter Bogdanovich? Yes, I'm surprised I got that right. I looked at that name at first and I'm like, I'm going to get this wrong. I know it. But what interested me the most about this was that it's written by Alvin Sargent, and he wrote the script for Spider-Man 2. So as soon as I saw his name pop up here, I'm like, no way, he wrote Spider-Man 2. That's so awesome. Okay, I'm probably going to love this. And surely enough, spoiler alert, I love this movie. I genuinely, wholeheartedly loved this movie. I love the fact that, because initially at first it had that sort of ending where it's just like, it almost makes you wish that it was more of a tearjerker by the end. But I love the fact that it's so natural. It sort of just ends. And it's just like, life goes on. And it's just like, okay, that's cool. Like it made me want to rewatch this film again as soon as it ended. I was so intrigued by this movie, and I loved it. To read the short synopsis here, it's about a Bible salesman who teams up with an orphan girl to form a money-making con team in Depression-era Kansas. And generally, it's the chemistry of these two actors on screen together that makes this film work so well. Tatum O'Neal and Ryan O'Neal. Wait, are these two father and daughter? I didn't realize they had the same last name. Wow, okay. So I guess these might be father and daughter in real life. Okay, wow, somehow I did not pick up on that. Maybe it's because like because on the poster here that I'm looking at, it starts off Ryan O'Neal, who is that? Madeline Kahn as Trixie Delight, who is yeah, she's something in this film, and then it goes to Tatum O'Neal as the third listed of the three names there. So it's probably the fact that they separate the two O'Neals that sort of threw me for a loop. So yeah, that's my first reaction. I guess these two are father and daughter in real life, and it makes me love this movie even more because they have such warm, wonderful chemistry with one another. I absolutely adored this movie. I love it. I don't got much to say about this movie, I guess, but it's just a really nice road trip movie. It's shot beautifully, great characters, terrific writing. And it's quite frankly one of the best door-to-door sales, probably the best door-to-door sales movie that I've ever seen. Because quite frankly, yeah, I've seen no others that do the job justice like this one did. I love the fact that these characters are smart, that they work off each other, they improvise, and they take risks, and the greater the risk, the greater the reward, as they say. And yeah, wow. I just so amazed by, like, I'm smiling ear to ear just the more I think about this movie. I genuinely love this movie. Absolutely, thoroughly love this movie. And that's all I got to say about Paper Moon from 1973. Anyhow, last movie I'm going to talk about here. Because I'm getting tired and the battery's starting to go halfway now. So the last movie on here, 1963. We're taking it all the way back then. 1963. This is Charade. A globe-trotting caper that prizes its idiosyncratic piece... Wait, that prizes? That prizes? A globe-trotting caper that prizes its idiosyncratic pieces over the general puzzle. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm reading that wrong or what, but Charade is a delightful romp with Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn's sparkling chemistry at the center of some perfectly orchestrated mayhem. Well, that's kind of a rickety breakdown from Rotten Tomatoes, but generally I agree. Generally I agree. I thought this movie was perfect. I think this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's basically what you'd expect from a Alfred Hitchcock movie, except it's directed by Stanley Donen, I think his name is, Stanley Donen. And yeah, this was just supremely entertaining movie. Cary Grant is charming as ever in this movie. Audrey Hepburn is just so damn adorable. And main reason I wanted to watch this was for Walter Matthau. And yeah, this movie does not disappoint. Did not disappoint me in the slightest. This is the type of like sort of mystery movie that I love. It always has you on your toes, wondering what the hell's gonna happen, like who's it gonna be. And at one point during this movie, I paused it. I went outside and had a cigarette because I think these characters were like discussing it, like while eating ice cream at one point. And it had me going over it in my mind, like who could this killer be? And the fact that it had me doing that, the fact that I was thinking about this movie with these characters was what compelled me the most. I love it when movies invest you into the mystery, into the story, into the characters. And I just loved everything about this movie. I could not even pick a flaw with this movie if I tried. I just thought it was so damn funny, so charming, and surprisingly suspenseful at certain points. Maybe if there was a flaw with it, maybe it's in some of the action sequences. Like there's this rooftop fight, like whenever they throw punches, you can tell it's obviously not contacting. But you know, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt at that point in '63. I mean, clearly they weren't you know, used to these technical, marvelous fight sequences on movies quite at that point in time yet. But it's still intense, and it still leaves you on the edge of your seat, and it still invests you into this story. And yeah, I genuinely love this movie. Wholeheartedly recommend this movie. I think it's probably the best movie I watched out of these 10 movies. It's definitely the movie that will stick with me the most. Yeah, I adored this movie. Wholeheartedly adored this movie. And strangely enough, again, I don't have much to say about it. I just thoroughly enjoyed this movie and every character, every actor in it. Yeah. And that's it. I love how I pick this beer up, I put it down, and I don't even drink it. What a nerd! Huh. Is there anything else I want to talk about here? Oh yeah, while I was at my buddy's place, I watched those Matrix movies again. I actually had to watch the third one on here. I had to upload it on my computer here. So I watched, obviously the first Matrix. That's a classic. That's a perfect movie in my opinion. 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, A plus, gold star, the whole shebang. I'd go full tilt in saying that's one of the best movies ever. The Matrix. The Matrix Reloaded. Matrix Reloaded was always one of those films, and, obviously I was a dumb kid at the time, but I always thought I liked Reloaded better than the original. What the hell was I thinking? What in the hell was I thinking? Because Matrix Reloaded, the problem, especially when you watch them back to back, you notice how terrible the cinematography is in Matrix Reloaded compared to how sharp it looks and how every shot is meticulously detailed and specifically designed for a purpose in that first Matrix movie. Whereas in Reloaded, I don't know how to describe it. It looks like a fucking TV movie in my opinion, especially Revolutions. Like both of them were made at the same time. And yeah, so Reloaded's a jumbled mess. I mean, it goes on for 2.5 hours. The dialogue's meandering. I'm just like, what the hell did I see in this as a kid? Why did I like this movie so much? And I guess it's the action in general, but even the action lacks consequence. Whereas the first movie, every time they get involved in a fight scene, you really feel the intensity of it, especially that fight with Morpheus and Agent Smith. That fight scene's like a fucking horror movie in that first Matrix movie. Whereas in this, it's just like, it's comedy. It's like a parody of the Matrix. Like there's bowling ball sound effects when Neo's like tossing the Smith into the bunch of Agent Smiths. And again, I really like the action scenes in this. I think they're over the top, but they're entertaining. But it's just like I wish it had that edge and that grit that the first movie had, and there's just none of it here. Especially in Matrix Revolutions, the action sequences in that, as much as some people complain about the action sequences in Matrix Reloaded, the action sequences in Revolutions are just worse. Like that final fight that Neo has with Agent Smith. What the hell is going on? Why does he even fight Agent Smith at that point? All he has to do is just surrender and let Smith do that plug-in sort of thing, and then, bang, he's won. That's it. There's no need for that fight to happen. And again, as a kid, I thought I liked that movie a lot, especially that final fight, but watching it now, it's just like, this is lame. Man, this is nowhere near as impactful as it was during that train station fight from the first movie. So what a disappointment that was to discover my ambivalence towards those two Matrix movies. I really hope this fourth one's good, but I was very disappointed to hear recently that Lawrence Fishburne and Hugo Weaving would not be returning. Look at that I just found on the floor. Oh, earring. I didn't know I had an earring in my ear. I used to have a ear pierce right there, but yeah, look at that thing. Maybe I need to plug that back in. Okay, so what a disappointing note to end this on. What a disappointment. What a disappointing, dismal note to end this on. But anyhow, you guys, that's it. I need to turn on some bloody fans in here because it gets hot fast. Fast in here, especially when it's hot out. Anyhow, you guys, I love you. I love you all so much. I want to kiss you on the face as long as you've washed it. And and yeah, stay cool out there, you guys. Stay cool and stay safe. And I'll see you on the next video. God only knows how long that'll be. It'll probably be a year or two from now. Who knows? But see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.